Hey, hi there, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I am Karen Firus, and I am super happy to be presenting here today. And thank you to Rick for asking me to tell my journey. I've known Rick for about 8 years, and just so you know, he was my doctor at the complex chronic disease program at BC Women's Hospital, and continued participating on in his core groups and shame and trauma groups at St. Paul's, as well as his inaugural neuroplasticity group. And I continue to be his patient. And along the way, he has been a real support and actually quite instrumental in the presentations and what I've gone on to do with my life. So I've been greatly inspired by Rick and his teaching methods and his belief in me. Anyhow, I have myalgic encephalomyelitis, or ME, also known as chronic fatigue syndrome, or CFS, and I have had it for a whopping 43 years. Now, I just wish this thing really had one name. Most people don't know what the heck ME is, so I just also say also known as chronic fatigue syndrome. And believe me, there's plenty of times where I just say formerly known as chronic fatigue syndrome, just trying to zero us into like one freaking name for this illness. When I was thinking about presenting this series of talks, I thought about what I wished I could have heard 4 decades ago and all those years in between, when I was first hit with ME. I wanted to hear from someone who'd really been through it all. Did they have it as long as me, as rough as me? Did they get better? Did it go away? If so, how long did it last? What were their symptoms? What treatments did they try? What worked? What kind of practitioners did they see? And most importantly, what does their future look like? I wanted the truth, but I also didn't want to be decimated. I, I wanted to be given hope. Okay, so that's what I'm here to do today. I wanted to hear that, yes, it is absolutely possible for life to improve. Now, of course, oh my God, I just wished for a cure for this thing. I kept thinking for most of these 4 decades that any day now, these research guys, these men and women are going to pull through and there will be a cure. A one-time magic pill would be, completely awesome to make it all go away forever. A pill where I wouldn't have to do anything anymore to maintain my health, because I'm telling you, it gets really, tiresome having to just take care of oneself. Let that be the main focus of one's life. The ongoing search for treatments, for medications, for medical practitioners, all the upkeep just to maintain my health and keep on going. On the other hand, gang, it's only been within the last few years or so that I can now reflect back upon my entire life and feel extremely fortunate and, really darn proud of what I've accomplished while living with ME. So I hope to be an inspiration for you. I look at my journey and how far I've come, the absolute rock bottom hell that I've been through, and what I've learned, how my illness has shaped me as a person for the better. I look at how I've taken charge. Okay, that's going to be a big theme of what seemed like an impossible and very, very cruel deck of cards to have been dealt. But now to know and accept this is my life. And by gosh, I am living it and reveling it in the best way that I know possible. So with all that in mind, here's what I've created for you guys. Today is part one. I'm going to be speaking about my journey with all of this. And let's see, part two is part one today is actually going to be more like sort of the medical side stuff. Part two will be about my experiences within the social aspects of the illness. Part three, that rockin' progressive medical school stuff that's happening that you all need to know about, and collaborative decision making and advocacy. Today, you're going to be hearing about the god-awful times that I experienced, and laughter, and the nightmare doctors. But most importantly, you're going to be hearing about the doctors who are just absolutely magnificent, wondrous, the incredible doctors who transformed my health, my life, my outlook. Now, all is definitely not doom and gloom on this journey. There have been, amidst all these struggles and suffering, there have been plenty of weird humor and lots of triumph over adversity. Like that whole thing of what broke me made me rise up even stronger than before. And you're going to hear about what I learned and what I wish I'd known then, with what I know now. But most importantly, you're going to hear that I never gave up. And yes, there were some really, truly horrific times where I felt, yeah, this is it. Can't go on anymore. But even then, deep down inside, I'm this optimist to the core, and I kept going. So just a bit of background. I am a creative person through and through. Ever since I was a wee little kid, I have absolutely loved and been wild about art, design, theater, film, music, dancing, color, fashion. And I've always believed that my mission was to create, to produce magnificent things, intoxicating visuals and words that were to inspire and motivate and educate, enlighten and invigorate people in ways that they hadn't expected. As a kid and in high school, I won awards for arts and academics and oratorical contests. I was a really good student. I had high marks. I was a teacher's pet. And I was an ambitious student. I was involved in Girl Guides, receiving the highest honors in Canada. And I had a terrific childhood. And all those years after with my mom and my dad, my younger brother, and our pugs, Sabrina, Fuji, and Bonsai, I was very fortunate. We had a really good family thing going on. At 16, had my first great job in a clothing store, really cool and hip, Dalmies in Pacific Center downtown. And I was also modeling in runway shows. And I was making cool pixelated Super 8 films about fashion. That's when I knew that I wanted to be a film director. I was even at 18 teaching modeling, or not teaching modeling, teaching acting at a modeling school. And all the students thought I was like someone who was in her mid to late 20s, imported from New York, okay? But I had boundless ideas and visions, and all these dreams and desires for like an exhilarating future. I was on fire. And most of all, I had energy. So in the summer of 1980, I had just finished my third year of UBC studies, and my first year of film studies there in the film program. And I was working weekends on a night shift at Pacific Press. I was I was a comic and flyer stuffer, shoving manually comics and flyers into the Vancouver Sun and the province newspaper, the archaic days of that. And, I just can still remember that smell of the ink and hear that rumble and the presses and see them, churning away behind this big glass window. And, those, of course, were the days when smoking was completely permissible amongst all that highly flammable newsprint. I was also the coordinator, the West Coast coordinator of a company for 1928 jewelry. And it was a fashion demonstration job that had me dressed up all in burgundy in this kind of 1940s military style. I had a microphone. I was performing at Burke's and Eaton's department stores. They built these sets for me, and there was Fred Astaire sort of tap dancing in the background and music going. And I would be selling these antique reproductions. I absolutely loved it. I was in my glory. But I was also becoming run down. I was just kind of fending off colds and sore throats. I was feeling really chill and bagged. My parents and brother were on vacation in Saskatchewan, and I remained home working. I was feeling lackluster, and to kind of give me a perk, I thought, well, I'm going to head downtown to Pacific Center and window shop and hopefully get inspired. So there I was, sauntering around Dalmies, where I first worked when I was 16, when suddenly the most peculiar and scary thing happened. I felt every ounce of energy draining out of me very, very slowly from the top of my head all the way down my body and out of my feet. And I had never, ever experienced anything like this before. It felt like my whole body, my mind, my being was completely shutting down. Like, boom, the cord had just been pulled out and I was unplugged. My heart rate slowed, my breathing slowed, my mouth was slack, my hands just hung at my side, my body was heavy. Everything around me stopped as I kind of sunk into this weird abyss, and I was in another space entirely. Now, I barely made it back to my car as I struggled through the mall with my feet feeling like they were encased in cement. I could barely lift my legs, and it was really scary, but at the same time, there was absolutely no way I was going to ask for help. I mean, that would have been far too embarrassing, right? So I made it back to my car and I barely made it back into my bed. Um, that was Saturday, the afternoon of August 9th, 1980. And it's a day that I will never, ever forget because that's the day when everything changed. That's the day when I got ME. Now, I figured I had a super bad flu. I canceled my work for that week. And, a short while later, I basically had to leave my jobs permanently. But not knowing that quite yet, I went to my doctor after a week and he concurred that, yeah, you got a really bad flu, get plenty of rest and liquids and yada, yada, yada. We're still unsuspecting completely what about to transform here. September rolled around and UBC started and I was still struggling. I was thinking, when the heck is this flu gonna end? I attended classes and I was super excited about directing my dance film with women in hand-dyed long johns. Uh, but this mysterious flu continued. And I even remember demonstrating the choreography for my class. It was really short, really simple. And they knew I hadn't been feeling well. And there I was at the front of the class kind of going, okay, and then here's this move, and then we're doing this. And I mean, it was short and I was puffing and wheezing and gasping and sweating. I mean, I had like rivers of sweat coming down my face and my class was like, oh my God, like what the hell is going on with Karen? Um, so, you know, I just I just kind of kept rolling with it. This flu be damned. Over the next few months, I kept returning to my dinosaur. Okay, what is this? Why is this happening? Why can't we fix it? Does anyone else have something like this? He started steering the conversation back to me, telling me I needed to take a year off. Well, I mean, to hell if I was going to do that. I wanted to graduate and make films and carry on with my life. And he was telling me to relax more, not be so stressed. That did not make sense, I'm telling you, because I was excited about stuff. I wasn't stressed about my life. I was stressed about the fact that I wasn't feeling good and nothing seemed to be getting better. Um, so, that's part of the whole deception of this. Now, miraculously, I shot my film and I flipped onto things that actually helped me to relax or to function. I would be relaxing my head. I'd be thinking, okay, just let my brain go, not think about anything else, just be in this moment. This is back in 1981. Relax, keep my shoulders down, keep my body and whole neck relaxed there. And I actually felt at that time just the weakest little puff of release in my head. And I was kind of like, hey, now at that time, I didn't realize that this was later to become kind of the whole essence of meditation, mindfulness, neuroplasticity. And it was kind of odd because as much as that helped, and I would keep trying at it, and sometimes it would work, very often it didn't. But what it led me to believe was that somehow I was going to be actually controlling this illness like in a psychological way, that I had mastery over this psychologically. Big error. We know that's not true, but that's kind of what it led me to believe at the time. And again, that was part of how screwed up this whole thing got. You know, and also if it didn't work, then I would beat myself up for not trying hard enough, for not going at it enough, for not putting the work into it, that, you know, I wasn't really trying. Um, Now, back then, in the early 1980s, and I mean, I've heard it still continues today, which I can't believe, is that there was a distinct difference in medical practices, that there was the body and there was the mind, you know, and never the twain shall meet, that they were completely different entities, and not as one whole. Now, at that time, you know, I even believed it was that way, and since then have really discovered that there's a whole other ball game going on with that, that they are very much together. Now, in 1980, and for most of that decade, there was absolutely no indication of ME or CFS anywhere in the world. The internet didn't exist. There was no mention in the media or in healthcare system. There was no scientific or medical research, no library books. I knew of nobody else who had this whatsoever. There were no support groups, no treatments, either pharmaceutical or otherwise. It was just me. I've been called a pioneer. I think just because I've had it this long and when it actually didn't exist, but there I was trying to figure out what was wrong and how to treat it. This was me trying to diagnose myself all these times over the years, I experienced symptoms that just seemed, you know, they seemed to exist as some other recognizable issue, like a cold, a flu, a sore throat, not being able to sleep. So all of that seemed, yeah, okay, that exists on its own. This doesn't seem to foreshadow anything of something weird happening, or some other illness. All these symptoms existed on their own as kind of recognizable things. You know, I would wake up completely exhausted and not be able to catch up. The weird thing was that I was so lightheaded most of the time that I was actually starting to find it hard to stand still. Like if I had to stand in line at a grocery store or at a concert, I just there'd always be this kind of panic welling up in me, and this kind of guarding, and to stay kind of conscious, I'd be kind of doing this and this, kind of any little movements became this weird habit to kind of shake my brain up, or kind of like, okay, concentrate, don't pass out, keep going, that kind of thing. You know, I started to have difficulties concentrating, studying for exams. My memory was kind of going more shot. I struggled with extreme odors, gasoline, cleaning solutions, things like that, harsh light, startling sounds or loud sounds were kind of edging their way in. But again, nothing really indicated, ooh, this is, you know, this is real serious stuff here. There was never any meaty explanation for a connection between any of these symptoms. And the thing was that one symptom would morph into another symptoms, only to make me think, hey, this is changing. Yay, I'm going to get better. Or maybe a symptom would kind of like ebb and flow out of the scene, again, deceiving me, thinking, wow, it's gone. I'm getting better. So creeping up and lasting for about 30 years was an incipient pressure in my head that was really difficult to describe to doctors or even kind of try to acknowledge myself. I'd had concussions prior, and so I was aware what a concussion felt like, that you're kind of fuzzy, you can't quite grasp or can't quite click into things. And I kept trying to shake this fuzziness out of my head, or hoping that if I did something like dance or go for a walk or deep breathe or laugh. I mean, these were all really strange things, but this is what I believe, that if I did some of these things, that maybe I'd kind of like shake this fuzziness out of there, that it would kind of just correct itself and go away. I didn't see it as physical then, which of course we know this very much is. I was kind of seeing it more, I don't know, psychological or something, but I can tell you, many years later, I absolutely wept when I found out that this is brain fog. My doctor, I mean, this guy thought I was out of my mind, where I tell him how I would exercise, and then 3 days later, I would feel completely crummy, just absolutely exhausted and completely decimated for not just a day, but many days, a week, sometimes weeks going on. This guy thought I was absolutely Looney Tunes. And I realized then that this just was about physical exertion. I was feeling run down after mental exertion. I was feeling run down after emotional exertion. This wasn't just about being run down or feeling bad after some negative or horrendous event. I was feeling the goddamn effects after really happy or what should be happy events. I would be absolutely exhausted. And, with all these revelations and learning all this stuff later on, I mean, I felt like I was inventing the wheel as I went along. Oh, God, this illness, it's so deceptive, isn't it? I'd be on the upswing. I'd be marching along, happy as a clam, and then I'd be even more ill, crashing completely over and over and over. I didn't clue into the fact that, the whole idea of pacing, that just wasn't even part of this, or what, the illness still wasn't even announced kind of thing. But I just kept trying to push through things. And, that is actually a very normal human response. As I've learned, I used to beat myself up over this, kind of realizing what I was doing. But, we only know what we know, right? Um, but again, I'd recover from something. I get that little inkling of hope, and then only to be terrifyingly sideswiped and ill all over again. Colds, sore throats, they would happen drop of a hat, within an hour, within 30 minutes, within 10 minutes. I'd be struck down with a roaring virus. And I always felt like people, particularly my doctor, thought I was just pretending or exaggerating or, making up a story trying to get out a commitment or something like that. Oh boy, through these times, my mom and dad, they never doubted me. I mean, how fortunate I am to have had Molly and Eric as my parents. This was a time where we didn't search beyond. I mean, we thought that our doctor was a doctor and, he would know. There was no real communication going on between doctors and other practitioners. And I hear this is still very much how it works. And honest to God, I cannot believe that to this day. I absolutely thought all of this would have been rectified and long gone by now. So it makes me very sad to hear that a lot of you are still experiencing this. Um, let's see here. Okay, now one thing, a little bit more background here that actually became very significant as time went by. And something that I didn't recognize for years, and my mom really only told me about it many years later, was that when I was 7 or 8, I knew this, I had a case of the mumps. My parents described it as an extreme case. I had this absolute square Bride of Frankenstein face. It was ghastly. And, my mom and dad noticed this, and other people were pointing out and took me to my doctor. And he was like, "Ah, this is normal. This is completely okay." Well, no, it wasn't. Because from that point on, what my mom told me was that my health was never the same, that I was a sickly child in person from that point on, with cold, virus after virus, with sore throats, swollen lymph glands, flus, laryngitis, a mysterious fainting spell at 15 that couldn't be explained. And boy, when something can't be explained, that is brutal. At this, I was also diagnosed with mono at 15, and all of this set the stage for what was to come, those years later in 1980. All of this really kind of led into the whole ME thing. But the whole thing is that it also kind of normalized the situation, because my family, me, my friends, everyone, we'd all been kind of used to seeing Karen sick with, these extreme viruses and stuff like that. So there wasn't really any panic going on that there was something abnormal going on in the world. I even asked my doctor if all these things were related. Well, of course, he thought I was bonkers. So I amped up my inquiries with my doctor. I asked to be checked for my lungs, my heart, because, okay, if it's not a flu, I can feel things happening. I can feel my chest beating differently. I'm feeling like I'm having to gasp. I feel like I'm having to get air. I started this weird coughing thing where I'd be going, like, again, trying to sort of clear something out of me or clear something out of my head, my chest, trying to keep me alert. My fellow students would be saying, "Oh, I knew it was you in the UBC main library because I heard your cough." Ugh. Great. So anyhow, with this heart thing, this lung thing, I was convinced there's something else for me. And I'm telling you, for years, I walked around with my fingers pressed to my neck every so often, checking for a pulse, checking to make sure that, yeah, it's still there. I mean, completely dysfunctional, but yeah, yeah. And if it were slowing down, speeding up, oh my God, panic. So again, everything increasing. At film theaters, again, I had to keep moving my head stuff, not stay stationary. And okay, anyhow, I mentioned all that, but pulmonary tests showed that everything was normal. Therefore, no need to send me to a specialist. I was sent for a heart ultrasound, an ECG, and it was done by a technician in training who wasn't even supervised. And she even admitted to me, I don't know what I'm looking for or why they've got me in here doing this. My doctor actually never wrote that down in my medical files. And that's when I started to think, yeah, he's just not taking this seriously. He's just sending me to these things to try to placate me, to kind of like, it's not really official. We'll just sort of see how we can get this done to help her out and convince her otherwise. All blood tests, God forbid, they came back normal, test after test. Complete lack of explanation on any of them. And this is when it made me realize that, yeah, the healthcare system really relies on those blood tests. Now that is changing, but boy, that is kind of the be all end all for many of these practitioners. So many times my doctor said, this is all in my head. Yeah, this is all in my head. I got to snap out of this. I got to go for a walk. I got to drink, more juice. I got to eat more fruit. I'm being too relaxed. Now I got to start walking. I mean, nothing made any sense. So I actually confronted him one day. I went, okay, dude. I didn't call him dude then, but I said, okay, so if you're saying this is all in my head, why are you not sending me to a psychiatrist, hey? Like, I mean, wouldn't that be the next step? Well, no, he didn't want to do that because God forbid psychiatrists would drug me and change me and all this stuff. So, I mean, I could not win with this guy. Let's see here. Anyhow, I did go on. I got my Master of Fine Arts and Film Production, made a thesis film. I still to this day look back and go, how the heck did I freaking do that? And it was hell. It really was. And yet I kept going. It took me another hellish 5 years to get that degree, and I had hopes of becoming a feature film director. I was winning awards, I was getting recognition, I was going on grinning and smiling and bravado and all this kind of stuff. It was exciting times. Now, at about this time in the late 1980s, there were rumblings of a mysterious outbreak that had happened in Lake Tahoe, and where people were like extremely fatigued, and it just sort of started appearing. In 1988, it was given the name chronic fatigue syndrome, but more than often called yuppie flu as a joke, okay? I made inquiries into it, but my doctors and specialists and pretty well everybody else just called this thing bogus. Oh my gosh, you guys, I can't tell you how much I wanted to leave my doctor, my dinosaur doctor. At this time, I interviewed 5 other doctors. And, during this time, I'm absolutely, completely exhausted. I just have no energy for doing any of this thing. And none of these doctors wanted to touch me with a 10-foot pole. I mean, they felt like as soon as they heard blood tests were normal, they were like, oh, no, that's okay. And your doctor, oh, from the sounds of it, he is doing absolutely everything according to the book. He is doing everything possible to make sure that this is okay. And I also have to admit, like I was pretty emotional with these doctors. I do recall sobbing and weeping and oh my God, help me. And in hindsight, I really think they saw me as unhinged, hysterical, challenging, that this, no way they ever wanted to be involved in a case like mine. Now, admittedly, part of the challenge for doctors and people in my life, and even me, was that amidst all these health horrors and exasperation, anxiety, and fear, is that I projected as well. I didn't project as ill. I looked good. I was upbeat. I kind of pushed my way through to being upbeat, that thinking maybe being upbeat would kind of cure this thing and get it out of my system. I was successful. Exciting things were happening. So I was confused about the fact that I was looking, like this and accomplishing all this stuff. And I had all these dreams and hopes and desires and passions. And I was sounding enthusiastic, but I was feeling so poorly on the inside. There was definitely two sides going on to what was happening. So, I decided to put on a good attitude and quit complaining, stop grousing about the same old things over and over. And eventually I just stopped talking about any problems I was having with my health. I stopped seeing the dinosaur doctor for everything except physicals and sore throats, where I was inundated with antibiotics for sore throats, which again just nuked my complete immune system. And I really felt like there was nothing more that could be done. Yeah, I mean, this is, 10 years after having this thing. I just figured, well, I guess this is it. I think I just have to accept this. I was seeing a well-known naturopath slash acupuncturist slash acupressurist who was actually kind of maintaining or kind of helping me function. And my mom and dad actually credit this guy for saving my life and keeping me going. I went through various careers. You'll hear about that another time. And I accumulated an abundance of skills. I thought each new career change would put me on the road to health, that somehow maybe I was self-sabotaging myself, that this wasn't the right career I was destined to be in, that maybe it was this. I went from filmmaker to artist to set designer to all this stuff. It just didn't make sense. Now, in the late 1990s, I was entering my sort of final career at that time as an on-air television news journalist. And I thought this job would change everything. I was doing feature stories and interviews on creative people, creative souls, and I was going by the moniker of the Renaissance woman. And I loved, oh my God, I loved what I was doing. But I was struggling the whole time, and I just kept pushing through it, just trying to kind of ignore it, cast it aside, until progressively my health got worse, and the exertion, the fatigue, all of that accumulating over time resulted in the biggest health crash of my life. I'd had a few before that, but this was a whopper. And it was interesting at this time because that's when the epiphany started flying. Oh my God. I mean, it was like a light bulb went on. I went, this is not right. I cannot go on living like this. Something is very wrong. Something has always been very wrong. Oh my God, my smile is faked and forced. Yeah, my laughter is faked and forced. Life is not easy. What am I smiling for? I'm pretending it is. I don't even think I was aware of I was pretending. I wasn't trying to deceive anybody. It was all about just, survival, self-preservation. And I thought, this is my life. I've got to keep going. Out of that whole thing is where I coined the phrase, people thought I was faking being ill when in fact I was faking being well. And I'm sure a lot of you have had to live with that. So I crawled back to the dinosaur doctor. I told him I realized something's wrong. I'm faking it, my laughter, everything. Well, he just, this Karen is kookier than ever. I've been pretending I'm okay for all these years, but really now I realize something is terribly wrong. It was nuts. I'd also become convinced that I didn't have ME, not only because I'd been repeatedly told you don't have it, but because I thought, it was too black and white, that either if you had it, you were like completely incapacitated on your bed. So I thought, okay, maybe I've had it, yeah, and now I don't. Now I'm over it because I'm functioning. So it was that whole idea of functioning, that maybe I was one of these little percentage of people who actually recovered from this. I sound like I'm talking like conspiratorially to myself because that's how it seemed. I was always trying to figure this stuff out. I was sent to a cardiologist for a stress test who mocked me. that I was so grossly out of shape. I mean, the nurse could see that something was wrong, but this guy, oh my God, he bulldozed it through anything that wasn't in his same belief. Even saying, oh, so now you're going to cry. Oh, look at you, so grossly overweight, or not overweight, so grossly, out of shape. There's no record of that visit in my medical files either. Yeah. Dinosaur doctor sent me to a therapist who billed me, it was $500 for a 3-hour session. And the dinosaur actually admitted to me that this whole intent of this was that money, the outlay of money, would actually snap me out of this thing. Jesus. So anyhow, I lasted for one session, and I was out of there. That's where this therapist, she was trying to teach me, okay, you've got this monster, this critter in your head. We've got to get this, you're imagining this. We've got to get it out. That's what I call the bad cognitive behavioral therapy. Okay, really bad. And from that point on, I felt like I thought I was dying at that point. My whole brain was shutting down. I was freaking out. I was with my parents. Wow, I mean, it was bad. And the dinosaur was completely flummoxed. I mean, I remember him like this looking at me. This guy, he'd never had anything like me in his entire practice. And he was at his wit's end. And that's when he said the, famous words, which I have so often described before. Aren't all artists like this? And again, it was like, boom, this explosion going off in my head. This whole idea of like, holy God, this guy is diagnosing me based on his stereotypical belief of my vocation. He also said I should change my personality, not be so animated or energetic or, gesturing or dramatic, flamboyant, whatever the word is, and that's where I kind of could pick up like, yeah, I see this history of women's hysteria stuff going on. I mean, that's what it felt like. And I had been so despondent at that point that I actually thought, by God, I am not going to kill myself because of this guy's ineptness. So that's when I took charge. That's when I took charge, and that's when everything changed, okay? Now, this is at the 19-year mark of having this, with basically no energy physically or mentally, and just absolutely crushing fatigue and sobbing. I started researching online, and it was brutal. I then discovered a guy called Dr. Bruce Carruthers, who was freaking retiring. This guy was a specialist, and I was like, oh my God, this guy's been doing this all along, and I didn't know about this. He could have helped me. I had massive guilt. I'd stopped researching. I stopped looking into this. Like, I just massive guilt. I was so hard on myself. Their office actually called me back and referred me, suggested this doctor who was really great, Lori. Absolutely exceptional doctor, and she has long since retired, but I became her patient. And that's when I said a final adios to that dinosaur doctor and kicked his butt to the curb. So anyhow, I had a whole sort of change going on inside me. I devised a list for doctors and practitioners. Have they ever dealt with ME before? Do they have anyone with it? Most of them had heard of it. They'd had patients with it, but their knowledge was virtually non-existent, and that was no fault of theirs. I also asked them, do you have any creative interests? I wasn't really didn't care if they did. I just wanted to see what their answer would be. I was trying to get them to relate. I was kind of trying to feel out how would these guys feel about working with a creative person. Lori changed the way I completely viewed doctors. I went forth no longer regarding any doctor as the enemy, but as an ally. I thought about how I wanted to be treated, and I approached them in kind. I went in speaking clearly, concisely, rationally. I made sure I didn't do any kind of sobbing and hysteria, although I did tell them that's going to happen. Lori, I do get emotional. That's going to happen. She was like, fine, go for it. I told them that I needed their assistance with what I've been dealing with for 20 years, that the blood tests always reveal that everything was normal. But I know, oh my gosh, my body, my mind, my spirit, my soul, my guts, my heart, I know there is something wrong and I need help. I was specific with symptoms. I wasn't just saying, oh, I'm not feeling good, or oh, I can't sleep, or oh, I feel tired. You've got to be specific, I learned. And I was detailed. I wasn't able to work. I can barely make it to the bathroom. I'm having to crawl on all fours to the bathroom. I feel my body shutting down. I spoke of my desire to live and to get my life back. That there were so many things that I wanted to accomplish in life. And please, please, can you help me do this? I told them that yes. I told Lori, yes, I look good. I sound good. And I laugh and I joke and I have a sense of humor, but don't be fooled by that, because underneath there is all this going on. I mean, my God, that was a mantra. I repeated those phrases over and over and over again, because I just kept thinking, maybe they still don't get it yet. Maybe they still think I'm feeling better. Anyhow, the breakthrough with Lori came when one day she said, I was asking her questions about something about ME, and she actually said, I don't know, but I'm going to look into this and ask around, okay? And I'm going to get back to you. Well, this is the first time that somebody, a medical doctor, had actually admitted that they don't know. But it was the fact that she was curious. She was open. She was determined to help me. Now, she didn't jump at the diagnosis of ME. As much as I wanted her to, she really wanted to go through a methodical kind of careful process of elimination, not because she didn't believe me or believe in the illness, but because she wanted to make sure she was ruling everything else out. And at that point, I really trusted her and respected her. It took a year. And, over the course of things, she sent me to a cardiologist, a neurologist. All of them were absolutely fantastic. Let's see here. The difference in the specialist compared to the dinosaurs guys, that they were all like-minded with her. She was sending me to people who I trusted, who I believed. Laura even said, okay, look, sending you to this neurologist, to this cardiologist. If the test results come back and they're all clear, they're all good, are you going to be able to accept this? And I thought, yeah, because I trust you and I trust these people, and everybody's explaining things well to me. So next came the psychological investigation, where I was diagnosed with general anxiety disorder, kind of no-brainer, dysthymia, which I don't have or didn't have, and a major depressive episode. Yeah, big no-brainer. And she recommended cognitive behavioral therapy, which I did, sort of saying, oh, you'll need 10 sessions and then it'll be good. Well, okay, this sounds great. I'm going to be fixed. I'm going to be coming out of this. I found a fantastic psychologist, Dr. Ellen. And Ellen taught me all about cognitive therapy, but I knew there's no way this is going to be done in 10 sessions. And, I kept going with her. And after a year, she actually said to me, Karen, she's had this American accent from Detroit. I've been looking at you, and you are like far above and beyond. You have done everything possible. You have worked so hard. I've never had a patient like you try every therapy, do all the work, everything, and it just doesn't seem to be going on. I do not think depression is the thing here. I think there's a bigger issue. I think it's chronic fatigue syndrome. And I wept. I mean, because again, here I'm being presented with this thing. But the remarkable thing is that, Ellen relayed all of this to Lori. She said, here's what's going on. I'd never seen that kind of collaboration between practitioners before. Lori sent me to a terrific general internist who, after 19 years later, after that scary incident in Dalmes in Pacific Centre Mall, he officially diagnosed me with CFS, as it was called back then. And by this point, it was not a big surprise. It was still a huge relief to hear it. It had a name. It was acknowledged. I didn't want the damn thing. And I also kept believing that a small percentage of the population were getting better, and that was going to be me. And I hung on to the belief for eons. I think differently about that now. I was doing things like I continued researching. I found a book that was meant for researchers and scientists that I told the guy who diagnosed me, he hadn't heard of it. I was like finding stuff for the specialists still. In it was a comprehensive interview a psychiatrist did with another psychiatrist who had ME, and it was me. to a T. Going off on vacation and not relaxing, coming back more tired than ever, just everything. It was unbelievable. And so from that point on, Lori sent me to a psychiatrist. I'd had a very, very fair independent medical examination, which I can't say is true for most people that I hear, but it was very fair. And this fellow recommended that I see a psychiatrist to monitor medications for depression and also to monitor CFS symptoms. So that was hopeful. So when I first met Bruce, there he was careening up on his bicycle, and I thought, good Lord, here's some dude who's so physically fit. You know, I was cursing him because I couldn't do what he was doing, and this guy's not going to get me at all. Well, he was the exact opposite of what I expected in a psychiatrist. He was human, he was open, he was curious, he appreciated my sense of humor, and he listened, and he offered sound advice. He told me that with all these drugs and medications, that it was going to be trial and error, mostly error. And I'm telling you, I even continued on, and I found out that a drug called Effexor, an antidepressant, was good for, could be used for people with ME to help give them a boost of energy. He'd never heard of this whole ME thing with Effexor, but tried it, and did give me relief for quite a few years until it didn't. But I was still super scared at this point. And so what I did was I started to assemble a team. I was like putting together every reasonable avenue of help that I could get. A new naturopath, a new acupuncturist, a physical therapist, a massage therapist. Lori actually supported all of this, admitting that medicine doesn't have all the answers. She's actually saying this. She's unreal. And as years went on, I added an osteopath, a chiropractor, Iyengar yoga classes, dietitian. I taught my dentist about ME. And much later, I enlisted an excellent pharmacist, Peter. No one like him in the Lower Mainland with knowledge of the usual Western drugs, but also supplements and compounding. He actually put me on a protocol that improved my immune system. I mean, just saving my bacon, and with that, allowing my body to have more relaxation and be able to function better. I was on homeopathic remedies from my naturopath to help with my immune system and viruses. They worked. I was also discovered that I had huge amounts of mercury in my system. So I was put on something called DMSA, some sort of natural chelation. That's not really a good term for it. I was referred to another doctor, another alternative MD who knew women's issues and mysterious chronic illnesses. Bruce Carruthers came out of retirement, and I saw him for a bit. I always remember walking into his office, and he was sitting there on the floor on a pillow with a little table, and there was all these pillows in front of him. And I thought, wow, this is so different from what I've been used to with the old doctors, right? I could be lying on the floor, basically like this, telling this guy my saga. Anyhow, over time, other members of my team included an ear, nose, and throat specialist, other therapists for hypnosis and self-hypnosis, which none of is flaky for me. It's basically other forms of meditation or mindfulness, and neurofeedback, speech pathologist, a sleep apnea expert, and of course, my hairstylist, Dale, who I feel should be part of my healthcare team, because that guy saw me through thick and thin. In the past 24 years, I have tried over 80 different supplements and medications. It has been an incredibly long process, all monitored by my team, and so many treatments I can't say. I was also asked if I wanted to go to the complex chronic disease program, to which I said a resounding no. I don't think it can help me. I've had this so long. Nothing much can be done. And I was also really cocky. Oh my God. I mean, I thought I knew everything, right? And also I felt that I wasn't worthy of it, that I didn't deserve this, that this program was meant for people who were worse off than me. I kept thinking everybody was worse off than me. And that they deserved it. Why should I take up a space in the program? But anyhow, my Brent, who experienced it, he said, you have got to go. And when I did, Man, it changed my life because that was the first time ever that I experienced specialists that I did not have to train. I experienced specialists who knew more than me, and the relief in that moment of just being believed, of not having to explain myself anymore, of not being analyzed or judged or suspicious glances. That was amazing. I thought because it had taken me up until the CCDP, I think it was about 36 years. I thought if it had taken me 36 years to kind of get as screwed up in this illness as I had, that it would take somehow just as long to get out of it. Well, do you know, by that third session at the CCDP, it suddenly just clicked. I didn't have to explain myself anymore. I could just be. I could just be me, and I could just take that forward and go on with what, you know, everybody else, how they see me. I didn't give a rat's ass after that point if people believed me or not, if people had to have an explanation. I was tired of defending myself, so I just stopped. So what's worked for me? Mindfulness, meditation, pacing, humor. I began core groups and all the groups with Rick at St. Paul's. You know, and again, I was so quiet during these things. I felt like I was kind of a fraud, that everybody had it worse than me, until one day I was encouraged to speak up and opening my mouth and just starting to puke out all this stuff and claim my story and claim my life. You know, I was developing my confidence again. I was getting my self-esteem back. I was getting a sense of my strength. My resilience was coming up. My body wasn't letting me down anymore. I was becoming stronger. You know, I mentioned as part of the title for this, the healthcare system. Oh, I must think, as I was writing this, I was going like, what? Why did I even say that? What healthcare system? Yeah, it's there, but it is so dysfunctional and malfunctioning, and people within the healthcare system will be the first to admit that. But I am going to address that in part 3 more, at how there are definite ways, things underway to change all of that. Okay, so sorry for mentioning that. You know, that's a big deal today. But anyhow, I feel fortunate that I've had a medical practitioner karma for the past 24 years. But I know that there are so many people out there with a complex chronic illness who have not had the fortune that I've had. What I learned, the biggest thing I learned is that the family physician, the general practitioner, is key. This is the person who needs to believe you, who you need to trust. What I wish I'd done is I wish I hadn't let up in my search for a new doctor. I wish I'd kept going. I mean, life happened and it was what it was. But if I could look back on it, I would have kept searching for a good doctor. I know it's hard. I know, you know, I know that people are exhausted and it's a nightmare trying to do it. But my God, you know, sign up for that Finder MD. I did that recently. I was paying the $4.99 a month. Or actually, what you can do is say, you know, I can't afford this. I have ME. They'll get a waiver, so you don't have to pay for it. And I landed another great doctor for my mom and me. But keep searching. That's the key. That doctor is going to set the tone for the entire team and for how you go through your life. It's going to allow you to just relax and get through it. I will never ever deal with another doctor or medical practitioner that doesn't believe me or believe in me or doesn't or talks down to me or talks down to the rest of my team. I will not tolerate being intimidated. I will not be judged. I will not be mocked. Okay, and when you find that GP, when you find that family practitioner, do not expect them to know everything, because they won't. And it doesn't matter, because they're going to be in this with you together and you're going to go through it together. It's all about the collaboration, okay? They're going to learn as they go along. Speak up, speak out. I learned to effectively communicate. This is my life and I am doing everything possible to live it to the fullest. And I am scared and I need help, but I can promise you, I will be the best darn patient you've ever had. Yeah, woo them. get them onto your side. Be specific, not generic. Again, I mentioned that before. Acceptance. Yeah, this was a biggie for me, acceptance. I didn't really accept this illness until about 8 years ago. Look, I knew I knew, I had ME, I knew I had this thing, but I kept having people say, doctors, you need to try to accept this. I kept seeing, if I accept this, I'm giving up. Like I'm giving up. Like I have got to keep trying to solve this thing, to figure it out. And I had so much guilt. Oh, I had so much shame that for all those years that I didn't get help. I actually, as I was preparing this, I thought, am I going to be embarrassed talking about this with these guys? Nope. I used to be, I used to have people thinking, why the hell didn't you get help sooner? Why didn't you try this? It didn't happen that way. Okay. Sorry. But it's that acceptance. And let's see here. I'm just going to try to find it. Yeah, here we go. Acceptance is not giving up. Here's the situation. If I'm told, okay, here's what I'm capable of, here's what I'm not capable of. Here's what I long for. This is what I can try for. This is what's possible. Here are the things I cannot change. Here are the things I do not have control over. Do I accept that? Yeah, okay. I broke my acceptances down instead of being this, you must accept this, to, okay, can I accept if I can't go for a really vigorous hike anymore, but rather a really slow 5-minute walk? Yeah, I can accept that. Can I accept that I can no longer make a really fancy schmancy dessert for a dinner party because I'm so exhausted, but rather I have to buy one? Yeah, I can accept that. So that's what happened. I broke down my acceptances into bits. I made it specific, so it wasn't overwhelming. So it made sense to me. Hang on here. I'm just trying to get this before we get to questions. Let's see. The other lesson learned, oh, for God's sake, be kind to myself. I mean, it sounds like such a cliche. You must be gentle with yourself. You must be kind. Yeah, but the reason it's a cliche is because it's true. But I just did not figure that out for years. And now I can finally say, yeah, I've arrived. I also learned not to compare. Do not compare yourself to me. Do not compare your illness to me or my journey or anything like that. This illness is as individualistic as you are. Okay. And that's what makes the whole thing a journey. And it doesn't mean that you're off alone or anything like that. Big lesson, say yes to whatever opportunity within reason comes your way. Don't turn anything down. If someone says, I think I know of a psychiatrist or psychologist, whatever, say yes. Get on the waiting list. Get on the list. Because you know what? You can always try it, later on, and you can always say no. You can always say, nah, not my thing. But get on the list. Take action now. Never hesitate to take action. I also learned that if something doesn't work now, who's to say it won't work years from now? So, be open. Don't just say, yeah, you tried that 10 years ago. Be open. Hey, why don't we give it a shot again? Why not? Okay. I became much more fluid in my way of thinking. Now, the two magic words, and thank you so much for hanging in there for all of this. The two magic words that I've learned, instead of saying, I'm not feeling well, I don't feel good, Lori taught me this, is to say, I am struggling. I am suffering. Because those two little words, boy, every medical practitioner suddenly just goes, wow. They listen to that, struggling and suffering. I've given up desperation. I used to be obsessed with my health. I used to be on guard for every goddamn feeling and everything that came my way. Now I'm actually kind of just able to, live some life. I'm able to find joy and purpose in my life, and I'll be describing that to you in part 2. And to remember, you don't have to do it all. The harder I tried, the more I tried all at the same time, the more, wretched I became. Just take your time in doing it. Know that there is a format that really, it is smart to try one thing at a time and figure out if that works or not. What I wish I'd known 43 years ago. I did not do this to myself. I am not to blame. You are not to blame. I did everything humanly possible to survive, to live, to have a good life with this illness, and I'm doing it. Over the years, I regained so much more confidence. My body, my brain, like I said, it isn't letting me down anymore. It's not all hunky-dory. You know what? I still struggle with symptoms and I still continue to pace. I'm still maintaining my health and still going on with appointments, regular appointments. I think about all those early years when I was this dogged medical sleuth trying to piece together all these disconnected symptoms, trying to figure out what was wrong with me and trying so hard to diagnose myself, despite the fact I wasn't a doctor. And then decades later, hearing all these symptoms and realizing, yeah, I got it. I'd gotten it right. I was just too far ahead of my time. I used to pray for that cure, and then I wished for all my might with recovery. And then when I heard, Rick told me this years ago, we are not aiming for recovery, but you can aim for remission. And that whole word, that brought immense relief to me. And I thought about it and I thought, remission. Yeah, I can work with that. I can accept that. So, final words here. Do not give up. Keep going. This is a tough, harsh illness, and it can get tougher, but there is also the absolute possibility, those times when it can and will improve. And there will be better days filled with happiness and joy and just the awe of being fully alive. I remain optimistic for all of you. I am living proof that anything is possible. Thank you so much for being here today. Yeah, we're going to open it up to questions now. Okay, let's see here. All righty, let's see here. Okay. Oh, and I also welcome like anything. I'm an open book here. Oh God, thanks for all your reaction there. I'm just noticing this now. Thank you so much. That feels really great. Thank you for all of you who are doing the little toots and smiley faces. Thank you. It is odd talking to myself on the screen, so I really am imagining you all out there, but wow, thank you. That just feels fantastic. I truly appreciate that. Yeah, so anyhow, you just can ask me anything. I do find it odd that I can't hear your voices, but I'm going to scroll through these questions. Questions, comments, whatever you want to say. Let's see here. Oh, interesting. Someone who, something that Nadine thought, CFS was 7 years ago, but makes her think she's had it for 30 years. Yeah, so much of that going to come up here. A lot of people really identifying about the health providers, so similar to this other, to Gina 14 years ago. Yeah, chronic patients are the strongest people I know. That's absolutely true. In fact, there's a story concerning research where a researcher was asked, she was doing research for HIV and AIDS, and she was also doing research for ME, for CFS. And they were asked, like, which one is the worst to do the research on? And everyone was thinking she's going to say AIDS. And she went, oh, this chronic fatigue syndrome thing. Absolutely. Because there had been, there was a biological marker. Things had been discovered for HIV, for AIDS, but ME, there was just nothing. So it was just all of us walking around in limbo, and it has been called a living death. That is an actual thing there. Okay. Self-advocacy. Yes, that whole thing. I mean, women being told to be quiet, calm, and accept and be complacent. And also, just as a reminder, I mean, I also look at, you know, there's a lot more women who have this illness than men, but you have to remember that the men who have this, they have a real trying time as well, because they are expected, you know, this whole male thing of being expected to be strong and brave and not talk and speak and whatnot. And so I got to tell you, you know, there's a lot of stereotypes and stuff that and stigmas that men have to deal with in having this illness as well. Tracy, thank you for all of that. I think I'm getting the fact here that my story is mirroring people's stories so much. Um, there's another person who also found Dr. Carruthers. I'm getting a lot of comments here. Let me just go down. I'm trying to see if there's any actual questions here. Yes, finding a doctor who says, I don't know, but I'll try to find out, rather than pretending, you know, to be that. In part 3 of the thing where I talk about collaborative decision making, it's all about, you know, stripping down that hierarchy, removing the doctor off the pedestal. And I can tell you, a lot of them do not want to be on the pedestal in the first place. Let's see here. Oh my goodness, you know, some people who've had it for 34 years here and whatnot. Oh, here, do you have advice for people who, Patricia says, do you have any advice for people whose brains do not get mindfulness meditation and cannot be hypnotized? I seem to be in the minority who don't get that. I'm sort of thinking, whose brains do not get, wow, you know, I can only speak for myself. I will say that it was not easy for me to get into mindfulness or meditation. I mean, my brain heavily resisted this stuff from the beginning. This is not easy. This is tough. I mean, it took me, oh God, years of trying to discover that little thing, but I kept at it. And once I felt that little click or whatever it is, that is often very indescribable to other people, I knew I was in the right spot. Cannot be hypnotized. God, you know, I kind of was a disbeliever on so much of this stuff. I mean, I was pretty skeptic, and I had every reason to be. I just really opened myself up and thought, let's just go with this. Let's just see it. One trick that I did do is I just really admitted to myself that I didn't know if this was going to work. I was just really out there and going, I don't know. I don't think this is for me. I don't think this is going to work. And the therapist saying, that's okay. That's okay, because even if you don't believe in that, it's something still going to happen. So I thought, oh, okay, sure. Let's see here. Yes, the recording, I believe, Rick is taping it, and it is going to be on his, I guess it's the Me TV channel. And I am also developing a YouTube channel, so it'll be on there. Let's see here. Yes, so yes, you can pass this on to people. How do you deal with people who try to push cure-seeking behavior? Let's see here. I think it's like they're recommending stuff that they've read about in Reader's Digest. Oh boy, yes, I will get into more of that on the social aspects, but really the bottom line when they say stuff like that, and this, I was haunted by this for years. It's just say, oh, you know, thank you for mentioning that. My doctors and I, we're doing stuff. There's more to it than that, but that's basically kind of it. But that's going to require strength, inner strength from you to be able to deal with that. Okay. How do I learn to communicate effectively? Wow, I hope to be teaching you more of this, but it's a long process. I mean, I have to tell you, I call myself a professional patient after all I've gone through, and I didn't start out like this. This was all developed over years because of this illness. There was nothing else I could really do. Let's see here. It's helped me. Madeline says, ME has helped me to slow down and enjoy the little things more in life. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things. This illness puts things into perspective. It makes things priorities. You know, what are you going to keep in your life and what are you going to eject? Oh, let's see. Medical practitioners don't listen to "I am suffering" if you're artistic. They interpret that as a manipulation. Oh boy, yeah. You know, there's a lot of stuff in here I may not have the answers for. but I feel for you, but I do know there are still other ways of getting through and getting across. When are you starting more workshops? Oh, let's see here. There's going to be chances for you to sign up for this. I think the next one is June 5th, and then I think July 15th. I don't know, but Rick will send out stuff for you. Let's see here. I haven't done one-on-one coaching, but thanks for thinking about that. I'd be game for anything. Okay, here we go. How can we afford these great supplements, massage, acupuncture, physio while we're on disability? Phew, yeah. Yes, I hear you on that because this is an expensive illness, isn't it? And disability sure is not the one way of paying for it. I have to be really honest here and transparent in saying that I've been fortunate in having the family that I have had. My dad did everything possible for his family, for his wife and kids, and I was lucky to have my dad's support, financial support for this. I also knew how to be extremely, extremely frugal. I've learned that, still am. I also got lucky in that I could afford this stuff because of being on long-term disability with a company that popped up and was providing me medical benefits, soon to be over. But boy, you know, that's something for me to think about. How else can we do this? Let's see here. Oh gosh, I mean, you know, the praise, okay, I mean, it's easy here. I haven't heard of a Roxin or whatever. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, this misdiagnosing with depression, that's a real crazy thing. I mean, that is so often the way it goes. I don't have any more information about the mumps mono-ME, except that for me, it was all about the lymph glands, the sore throat, the fact that I became sick from that day on, that a lot of these symptoms kind of came rearing up in different ways with ME. Let's see here. CBD, no, I've never done anything like that. There are people who have and whatnot, but I've just sort of on a different path and found other things that work. Have a Visible app. I think I may have heard of it. I'm not sure. Let's see here. Oh, hey, Nigel, right on. A man out there for mentioning the male stigma. Good. I'm not working at the moment. I haven't been able to work full-time or even part-time for the past 23 years or something. However, I am getting into something different here where I'm mentoring and teaching and earning little bits here and there. I'll be talking about that in the work social stuff. Let's see here. Mindful meditative. They have so much brain fog. Yeah, it's all about just keep on trucking there. Let's see here. Hey, someone's had it for 46 years. Okay, let's see here. Don't know or I think Rick said this will come out in a week from now. That any ME support groups in Vancouver. I mean, I'm just aware of the groups that Rick is doing. They're not really, he doesn't call them support groups, but they're, you know, the core groups and whatnot. I think you need to, oh, actually, yeah, the support groups is the BC FM, you know, the provincial gang. They've got support groups going. They're really good, from what I hear. Also, the National ME Action Network is the Canadian one. Always look up the provincial, yeah, what is it? ME/FMBC, something like that. You Google it, you'll find it. But yes, I don't find that doctors blamed mental health, really. They just thought I was, you know, dramatic, whatnot. Maybe they saw that as mental or whatnot. Let's see here. I don't have one-on-one support yet, but I am sort of going to be taking all of this in consideration. Let me just see here. Oh my goodness. Okay. Don't know if shingles can be a trigger. There's a lot of stuff here. I think you guys have also got, I think you need to give yourself real credit for all the stuff that you know that I don't know. Okay, that's actually a really big deal because a lot of this is not familiar to me. We've still got 15 minutes here for going on. Sorry if I'm missing anyone. I'm just going through this again. Just bear with me as I try to figure this out. Hang on here. Let's see, sorry. This is where I need Rick in here yelling out stuff. Hang on, gang. Okay, yeah, GP retiring advisor, start looking for a new, yep, good thing. Yep, again, keep searching till you find that doctor. You want to find the ones who are going to be open, who are going to want to understand, because from that point, understanding, they can empathize, and from that time, they can do really effective work. How do you find the meaning in life? Man, that's the question of all questions, right? That took me a lot of soul searching, and there were some very obvious things right in front of me. I'm going to be talking more about that as to how I realized that and how I figured that out. Sometimes it is right in front of your nose, but it is, again, not all that apparent. That does take a bit of, I think, investigation and whatnot. Okay, here, hang on, gang. Is it common to have both ME and FM? Yeah, I actually don't have FM, but I know a lot of people who do. So it is actually very, very common. Hang in there. Okay. Let's see, I'm just trying to think of other stuff that I might have missed here while we've just got some remaining minutes here. Let's see here. Yeah, I think being able to have figured out what I did really comes from simply time and experience. And there's just no other way getting around that. Okay, I will say that, you know, all my life, I just simply wanted to be a filmmaker or whatnot. And basically, I would have never, ever even remotely considered anything in health, you know, health, politics, or the military. So it is to my absolute unbelievable that I can't believe that I am actually doing these things now, and yet this is now my calling. And you know what? I'm digging it as much as possible. So there we go. Okay, let's see here. Okay, what is your pacing program like in a day? It varies, because again, I have found out that not everything is linear with this illness. There is no kind of, you know, beginning to end thing. It must be like this every day. Things are fluid, things fluctuate. You have to go with the flow. So my pacing program has become a lot more organic in that I recognize, okay, I've got this presentation I'm going to do today. How am I going to get through it? I need to make sure I'm rested beforehand. I make sure I'm focused for days beforehand. I make sure that I am rested and able to rest afterwards. I make sure I listen to my body. It's become much more of that for it, you know. Does my body feel like it can handle me going outside for a brief walk? Yes. Does my body feel like it can go uphill for a bit? Yes. You know, so my program is very, very organic. I really feel this. There are, I mean, I've really learned how to identify stuff in my body. And I've been told this, that I really am specific and really pick up on what my body's doing. That just came out of fear and time of dealing with this illness. But it's something that has really saved me in being able to identify things. You know, I also learned that a lot of people who have ME or this kind of complex chronic illness are empaths. Boy, that's me, where I really pick up on what other people are feeling. If there's anger or this, you know, I can feel if people don't believe me, if they're suspicious. I do. And it used to really bother me, like, oh my God, this person, you know, they don't believe me. And to now where I just go, yeah, okay, don't need you. Good luck. Go on, carry on. You know, that kind of thing. Let's see here. I got sidetracked there. I was going to say something else. Oh, I also found out that I am a highly sensitive person. Oh, my God, for anybody, I learned this, you know, just kind of more recently, that it completely makes sense from when I was a little kid and scared of you know, I don't scared of the boogeyman, scared of Santa Claus. That sounds so hokey, but this anxiety of a kid, as a kid, of uh, just being anxious. And you know what? My parents just at that point, this sort of thing didn't exist. They did absolutely everything possible to make me function and feel okay and whatnot. And sometimes it's just beyond, you know, the reach of parents or friends or ourselves to be able to recognize these things. But in hindsight, when I hear about being a highly sensitive person, wow, that is me to a T. Let's see here. Have I done media on MECFS? I'll talk about some of that next time. Not as much, but hoping to. Um, uh, I feel like I want to keep talking about other stuff, but that's for other things here. Hey, somebody has said here, Alma has said that the BC Society, MEFM Society of BC has a list of practitioners that are knowledgeable and supportive. Go for it. What doctors really helped me? It's that key Lori or all the other women who have come since who have been my my MD or a family practitioner. I also benefited greatly from naturopath, from osteopath. I mean, all of the ones that I went to, there were significant things involved. Let's see here. Wow, someone here, Linda says, luckiest people on earth since 1979 to have a wonderful doctor who called it chronic fatigue from day one and sent to every specialist he could think of. Way to go. Yeah, you know. I really do want you guys to know that, you know, for all the horrors you hear out there of poor doctors and whatnot, that really there is hope that these great ones do exist. And with more and more of them coming out of medical school now and not content to be part of the healthcare system that has so gone on before them, you know, they want change. And so we are going to be seeing a lot more change coming up in the future. Let's see here. Oh my goodness. Okay. Don't know somatic work. You guys are giving me all kinds of good stuff to look into here. Let's see here. I don't know about connection of autism and ME. But again, what you have to remember is that there are so many variables on this, and you have to not be worried about whether someone knows this or has had this or not or whatnot. Pursue it, okay? Just sort of look. I've become very mindful of what websites, you know, to look on. I could sure get freaked out by looking at a certain website and doctor saying, quit researching this online, you're screwing yourself up. So, so, yep. And, but to go with websites, you know, that are legitimate, and there is a way of figuring that out. Let's see here. Yeah, the top two treatments practices again. Oh man, boy, oh, there's so many. But again, one that really changed me was this protocol, the immune system protocol from the pharmacist who got me started. Because as soon as my immune system started being more effective, that was a big relief for me and a bit of a life changer. Let's see here. I do not have a weekly schedule. I've given up on doing that 5-year plan thing. That's bogus BS for me because I can't plan that far in advance. I've disappointed myself so many times before on having a 5-year plan. It doesn't work for me anyhow with this illness. So let it go. You know, don't try to fit in with all the rest. You say, oh, you really should have that 10-year plan. What, you know, good for you, go do it. But I'm cool with what I've got going on here. I really want to instill confidence into you. I want to help you get your self-esteem back. Someone says here, I wish I had only 2% of your energy. Well, again, you know, I'm in a good place right now. I'm excited to be doing this. So yeah, you know, I'm I'm feeling good, and I am taking care of myself. But again, it's not always like this, and I am very frank about revealing when it's not and what I look like. Um, I always tell people you have to remember I'm completely babed up for you guys today. So anyhow, do I consider myself in remission right now? No, I still have things that I want to somehow get through and accomplish. I don't actually consider that. I'm still not really at a functioning capacity that I would like to be at. So I'm still aiming for that. Um, but again, so optimistic about that. Okay, let's see here. We're coming to the end. Is there anything else that we are missing? You've all been so very kind. I cannot tell you how much I've appreciated this. I wish I were able to answer more of these things. Anyhow, okay, if there's any last questions, we'll go for it. Otherwise, we'll probably be signing off here at 4:30, okay? And I cannot wait to speak with you more and have you as part of my inner sanctum here to carry on. I'm really looking forward to it. I have to say you have been an absolutely terrific audience that even though I can't see your faces or your voices, I can see by the reactions. And I am so very honored and to have been able to speak to you. And I feel very, just very, very happy that I am making an impact. Um, that is that is absolutely one of the biggest things here. That to realize that all of what I've gone through in the past 43 years does have meaning, and is doing good for others. That I have been able to transform a really horrific thing into a real beacon of hope, not just for myself, but for others with the illness and others who don't, and just people in general, that whatever you're dealing with, there is always some kind of hope going on, and there is always better stuff ahead. And again, I'm not just saying that flippantly. That's what's happened to me, and that's what I believe in with all my heart. So please just keep on going along there. Don't give up, okay? And I sure look forward to seeing you and hearing from you all again, okay? Thank you very much. That will end it there. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very kindly. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm very, very honored to have been able to speak to you. Thank you. Okay. Wow. What a session. Okay.